The desert afternoon lay swollen with heat, the kind that made distant mountains ripple like ghosts. And the dust on the trail tasted of iron and secrets older than the frontier itself, as Elijah Brogan rode out farther than any cattleman had reason to go. Elijah had the look of a man stitched together by sun, wind, and bad decisions, broad hat, cracked boots, and a past that clung to him like rattlesnake skin. He'd lost his ranch in a poker game, then won it back, then nearly lost his life defending it, and now, saddled with debts and a future too thin to lean on, he had come chasing the kind of bargain only desperate men believe in. Word was that an old-timer named Crate McGill was selling a cabin in the high country for the ridiculous price of 12 cents, cheaper than a cup of coffee, cheaper even than a single bullet. Folks in town laughed and said the land was cursed, but Elijah wasn't the type to fear curses. He feared hunger, debt collectors, and memories of the war far more. When he reached McGill's shack, the old man was sitting on a stump with eyes that looked like they'd seen something that should have stayed unseen. Without a handshake, without a question, McGill held out a crinkled scrap of paper and muttered, "Pay the 12 cents and don't ask me." "Nothin'." Elijah dropped the coins into the man's trembling palm. McGill recoiled like the metal burned him, leaving Elijah standing there with a deed scribbled in charcoal and a chill crawling under his shirt despite the sunburned heat. On the long ride toward his new possession, the land grew stranger. Rocks stacked in ways no wind could shape. Trees twisted inward as if bowing to something buried beneath the soil. The birds had gone silent. Even Elijah's horse refused to step near certain patches of ground, snorting as if smelling something foul the wind could not carry. By the time he reached the ridge overlooking the cabin, the sky bruised purple with oncoming dusk. The cabin crouched like a forgotten animal, hunched under years of rot and ash. Its boards burned in places as if lightning had struck it again and again. But it was the silence around it that gnawed at him, too still, too expectant, like a held breath. Elijah dismounted, pushed the warped door open and stepped inside. And that was when he saw her, a massive figure hanging from the rafters, a young Apache woman, easily 6.5 feet tall, her long, black hair shrouding her face, her feet inches above the dirt floor, arms limp, body swaying ever so slightly though no wind touched the cabin. For a moment Elijah couldn't move. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong, not just murder, not just tragedy, something deeper, ancient, coiled with spiritual weight. The rope around her neck looked freshly tied, yet the cabin smelled like years of death. Swallowing hard, Elijah approached, cutting her down with shaking hands, lowering her gently to the floor. Her skin was warm. That alone froze him. She wasn't dead, or she shouldn't have been. Scars across her arms told stories of battles fought with impossible strength. Her clothes, traditional, beautifully beaded, symbols of the Chiricahua, were torn from struggle, but her body showed no wounds deadly enough to kill a normal person, much less a warrior of her size. Suddenly her eyes snapped open, amber, fierce, ancient, and she grabbed Elijah's wrist with a strength that jolted lightning through his bones. Before he could react, before he could breathe, she whispered in a voice both thunderous and fragile, "Why did you free me?" Elijah stammered, lost between fear and awe. She sat up, towering even while kneeling. Dust shifted in strange patterns around her, as if the very earth recognized her. "My name is Nalina," she said, "and you, rancher, have taken a burden you do not understand." Outside something growled, low, unnatural, circling the cabin. Nalina's eyes hardened. "They know I live again." Elijah felt the weight of the 12-cent deed in his pocket, like a hot coal. Whatever he bought, it wasn't just land. It was a battlefield of forces far older than the Wild West, and he had just cut down the one person every spirit in these hills feared. "Get behind me," she said, rising to her full towering height as shadows slid under the door. Elijah swallowed. He somehow knew that the night was about to teach him truths no man was meant to learn. Night fell fast. The kind of night that didn't just steal the light but buried it, and the cabin trembled as if the darkness itself pressed against its walls. Elijah had seen war, ambushes, and ambushes in war, but nothing prepared him for what stepped out of that darkness. Eyes, too many too far apart, blinked from the tree line. Shapes twisted like coyotes made of smoke and bone, flickering between the living and the dead, circling with hunger that wasn't meant for flesh alone. Nalina stepped forward, towering, back straight, shoulders scarred by old ropes and new fury. Elijah felt like a child behind her. Even the spirits hesitated as she lifted her chin, like a queen reclaiming a stolen throne. She spoke in Apache, not a whisper, not a shout, but a command that shook the air. The creatures paused, trembling. Elijah didn't understand the words, but he understood the meaning. You cannot have him. Not while I stand. The largest spirit lunged. It was no animal, its body stretched like torn cloth, bones rearranging as it moved, more gaping wider than nature allowed. Elijah pulled his revolver, firing a shot that passed clean through the thing like wind through smoke. Nalina didn't bother with bullets. She seized a burning log from the fireplace and swung it through the beast. Its shriek rattled the windows as the flame carved a path through its body. More poured from the dark, swarming, snarling, shapes born from whatever cursed land McGill had abandoned. Nalina fought like a storm-given flesh, every movement precise, powerful, rooted in old ways Elijah knew weren't taught by any warrior. On Earth, at one point a spirit slammed into her, driving her into the wall. The cabin shook. Her chest heaved, bruised, but she pushed herself up again. She didn't fear death. Elijah realized with a cold shiver that she had already met it once. As the battle raged, Elijah dragged a shelf aside, revealing a hidden symbol carved into the wall, a sunwheel, charred into the wood with deliberate fury. Nalina froze mid-swing, eyes widening. She touched it with trembling fingers. "My people," she whispered. "This was once our village." Elijah's breath caught. The ruins he passed on the ride. The silent earth. The cabin wasn't cursed land. It was stolen land, burned land, a graveyard of her people. And someone had tried to bind Nalina here, killing her once, hanging her body to break her spirit and use this ground for darker purposes. She extended a hand, placing it over the symbol. The wood glowed faintly. The spirits recoiled as if burned. "They are not hunting us," she said grimly. "They are bound to this place. They were twisted by the same rope that killed me." Elijah felt anger ignite in his chest. Anger not at the spirits, but at whoever had done this. "McGill?" he asked. "Or someone before him?" Nalina's jaw tightened. "Men who wanted power they did not earn." The spirits howled again, their forms destabilizing as the sunwheel's light spread. "Help me," she said. "Press your hand beside mine." Elijah hesitated only a heartbeat before placing his palm on the wood. Heat blasted through his hand, up his arm, into his chest. Visions flooded him, flashes of Nalina alive, leading her people, defending this valley. Then flames, betrayal, the rope tightening around her throat, her spirit refusing to break even in death. The land crying out for justice. Elijah gasped as the spirits screamed, their forms unraveling in a whirl of dust and moonlight until nothing remained but silence, the first true silence since he arrived. Nalina collapsed to one knee, breath ragged. Elijah caught her before she fell. "You freed me," she said quietly, "not just from the rope, but from the place they tried to bury me in." Dawn crept over the ridge, turning the valley gold. Where spirits once swarmed, wildflowers now pushed through the dirt. Nalina stood tall again, towering over Elijah but smiling, a real smile, fierce and grateful. "The cabin is yours," she said, "but the land is ours, my people's, and I will protect it." Elijah nodded. "Then I'll stand with you." Together they walked. Out of the broken cabin, no longer a place of death, but the beginning of something unimagined. The frontier was changing, and so were they. As the sun climbed, Elijah looked toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, McGill or whoever orchestrated this nightmare would learn that the dead did not stay dead, not when justice called them back. And a rancher who paid 12 cents for cursed land had become partner to a warrior who had survived death itself. Their story was just beginning.